Hello Capricorn, welcome back to my channel, The Vibes Inside. I am Mariana and I'm preparing here now to do your reading, Capricorn. So I feel like I wanted to shuffle on camera. It doesn't really matter, I do the same process no matter what reading I do. So for you Capricorn, this time around, this round of readings, I do something that is called love-hate relationship. It has to do with, well, you could say it could be your biggest gift and your worst, your biggest and worst gift, so it can be something in you that you know, some characteristics that you have, and that they're maybe your strongest suit or your greatest gift, and at the same time they are the biggest problem. It creates a certain problem for you. Of course it can manifest itself as an external energy also. You could be dealing with someone, right? Because I do feel like, and I want a reference to, I don't know if you know about it, I think it's a film on Netflix right now that's called something like The Snow Community. I have referenced to this film before for Capricorn, and I just feel like it's a great example of what it is that Capricorn is facing here on Earth. Because Capricorns, like, you are tough Capricorn, you have, like, you endure so much, like, in that film, it talks about like a plane that crashes in very frosty mountains. During winter time, it's extremely cold there, and some of the passengers survive. And there's a search for the flight, but never really found. The people survive there against all odds. They survive. Many of them survive. I guess about 20 or so is left still when they are found again after, I believe it's more than 30 days there. There's nothing there. Like, they don't even have real shelter. They only have parts of the airplane. And, well, the walls of an airplane is very thin, actually. It's not that, of course it helps a bit, right? But the plane is not intact. It is, like, ripped into pieces, and they only have blankets and so to cover the crash opening. It's very, very cold. They survive by, of course, initially they take what's in the luggage, they take what is available of water and eatable things there. But eventually it becomes very known to them that they can't sustain themselves unless they do something that goes against all ethics, all ethics. They start eating some of their dead passengers who are laying in the snow. And this crosses a line in many regards as to what is human and humanly normal. And in the beginning, it's a problem, right? And they have to. Some are refusing, some are doing it, but it develops this ethical and moral and because it crosses a line to the ideals of what they were, brought up to be. And in the film, there's a concentration on certain boys that are all members of a football team. And they are good Catholic boys, right? They have been raised in a very loving environment, they have religion, they have faith, they have family support. They normally are jolly, happy boys that enjoy football together and so on. They come from what it seems like a very supportive environment, and suddenly they find themselves in this extremely harsh territory. And as I said, against all odds, they survive there. But it comes with a price, right? This endurance comes with a price, and it shows them something that deep down they are like any other animal that would try to survive in a very hostile environment. That though we are humans and though we are civilized, it depends, right? Because it only takes a different environment. Then all of this stuff, all of these ideals, all of these, like if you are ripped from a supportive environment, you will not have you will go back to the basics, you could say. You will go back to basic survival instincts to survive in a very hostile environment. And that's what I think Capricorns do. Like, they survive something in very hostile environments. Against all odds, perhaps. They survive something. In this case, it was an accident, right? The plane was not supposed to crash. It was supposed to land safely in another airport, and they were supposed to go to this football camp together and have a good time there. But then suddenly something came into their life that totally changed everything. They haven't spoken up about it. This is an accident that happened in 1972, and just recently a film is made about it. Like, the survivors, they are in their 60s now, and it has taken them over 50 years to make this film, because it's not something that you are necessarily proud to say out loud, right? You're not proud to speak about the things that happened there. It's like what happened in Rome stays in Rome, right? That's what I think they have done. Like, when they returned, it became maybe slowly apparent to their families what had happened. But they still had to live with the decision. They still have to live with this. Now that they were back in civilization. Like, now when they were back in civilization, they still had to live with the choices they made in this very hostile environment. And I think they had a difficult time with this. Some had very like severe frost injuries. They got limbs were amputated and so on when they were rescued. And of course, many of them died up there. I believe there was about 25 or so who lived. One of the things that happened during this is that, first of all, it's this harsh environment. It pushes these humans that are in this position here, it pushes them into a very survival-oriented, instinctual mode. They have to leave all of their ideals behind. If they want to survive this, they have to, like all the ideals of the civilized world and their normal upbringing and their normal life, they have to leave it behind if they want to survive. So that is a choice. You can stick to your principle and die. You can survive perhaps, but then you break all principles you know, right? So that was like, there was no other way. There was no other way. So either you stick to your principles and you die, or you abandon your principles and you may survive. Eventually, even if they did this, they ran out of corpses, they ran out of food or flesh. So they decided to send out a search party team to see if they could find some kind of civilization or town or mountain village or something nearby. It took some very brave men to do that, knowing that when they went out there, when the night comes, it becomes so cold that they probably would freeze to death. So it's to go out there is against all odds. All odds. Staying was also against all odds, but going out there without any like shelter or something was even more problematic. So they were now sending out this search party against all odds. Like, this has to be done in a way where if I'm dying, I'm dying. I'm doing it anyway. They were 4 people. 2 managed to move on, and 1 actually got through. And this is the reason why they were rescued, because this one person managed to find some guy on a horseback. That is the reason why they got rescued. So you see, this one brave person, already dehydrated from the many days in the mountains, already starving, already exhausted, already cold, very, very cold, already injured by all of this. He managed to get through. 1 did. To rescue the rest, right? So this is a story about extreme endurance and persevering, even though you annihilate everything you may know about yourself in the process. It's about extreme survival mechanisms and eventually actually getting help, being rescued, flown home to the warm environment and homes and shelters and beds and everything. And food, right? But it has taken them 50 years to make this film, to get ready to talk about this, to show it. And then again, I believe the film only shows some of it. But it tells a story that is so difficult, and I'm not quite sure why this is. I just feel like it's a thing that Capricorns feel like there's such resistance, right? Like being born into this world, and then there is such a massive winter, you know, like it's like being born into these ice cold mountains. Early on in life, you experience something, and you have only two choices: either you stick to your principles and may die for it, or you comply, or you find ways to endure what this is, and then you survive. But surviving comes with a price, right? It comes with a tough price that maybe you can never really be a jolly human again, or you can never really be. It takes great focus to keep your life running. And that's why I say that Capricorns are tough. They can be serious people, right? Life is a serious matter. Like there's always, you know, with every joke and every jolly or fun time, there's always this instinct that this can turn in any minute. Right? That's what I feel like with Capricorns. It's like being here and somehow facing resistance, or somehow facing an opponent that is very, very big, very harsh, very, again, what I've said before with the winter in the mountains, like it's unnegotiable. You can't negotiate with it. Like it doesn't move, it's fixed in that sense, right? It keeps roaring at you with a sense of like an iron fist. You can't like, as a human on such a crash site, you don't have the tools, you don't even have the clothing. If you come from a civilized place and you decide to go to the winter, you can prepare. You can be prepared. You can get the right boots, get the right socks. You can get all the right equipment, the right thermal, outdoor wearing jackets and trousers and everything. You can pack your backpack with like easy carried food in some way. You probably have your radio with you. You probably have some kind of communication tool if you are trying to climb a mountain or something. You're also investigating. Like you are investigating everything you know about the mountain before you do the trip. But what happened here is, like, these young people who were on this flight towards some kind of football camp somewhere, they were unprepared. It's like they dump into this world extremely unprepared. All they know is their home environment, which was in Spain. It was sunny and warm and everything. And as I said, supportive, happy, jolly. They went to school together. It was nice community. Now they jump in very unprepared. They don't have they did that. They were not prepared, right? They just like suddenly they crashed into this place, and they all kind of experienced this thing together. And they lost friends along the way who couldn't like stand the frost and everything. They said goodbye to many. This was a very extreme, I know it's a very extreme situation that I'm describing, but I hope you get my point of that. It's like being unprepared to jump into this place. Like you don't have anything with you. There is no guidebook. There is no real shelter. There is no food there. There is no nurture. There's no, like, being a human in that environment is very difficult. Being a human back in Spain was not the same. Like the cold of the winter was enough. Like the cold is the frosty, extreme nights there were, well, many died during the nights because it became so, like the temperature dropped so dramatically. And well, it wasn't warm in daytime either, but at least the sun was there. So it drops and it becomes like extremely cold there. And you just never know if you wake up the next morning, right? You never know. It's that feeling that you have been dropped into something and you are very unprepared. You don't have the necessary survival skills or tools. And this is how life could have been feeling for certain Capricorns. It's like everything you do, it just seems like there's a new storm coming, or there's a new winter. Or you endure something. You adapt, you endure, you annihilate some of all the stuff that you would normally like hold on to, because you can't hold on to your prayer. It's not enough. Like the prayer is not enough to make you survive in that situation, right? Prayers to God or to Jesus or any other deity, it's not enough. Eventually you're going to die. Eventually you're going to... The human aspect in us is highly awakened in those states. That we will, our survival instincts kick in. We become like the animal again. It's actually like we're descending into a more animalistic state. Now we are wondering where there's food. We are wondering where there is shelter. We are wondering because our primary needs to survive are instinctually kicking in. If you as a child have experienced something that pushed you to the limit, life becomes a more serious matter. It's not just a jolly fine time. And I'm like, what I know about these survivors is that even though they got back after, I believe it was something like 42 days or something like that, in the mountains, even though they got back, so a little over a month they have been away. But that experience changed everything. That experience, football was not the same. School was not the same. Family gatherings were not the same. You know, it changes you. Something like that changes you. And that's what I feel like is here for Capricorn. It's like and the love-hate relationship is that I feel like it's the choice you make. Like when you arrive here as a child and you somehow are maybe facing some very difficult situations, or it just feels like it's always uphill somehow. The uphill is, well, I believe that in all aspects of our life, we are always seeking to heal something in us, whatever that may be. For you, Capricorn, it's this feeling of always being in situations that feel uphill. Like it's almost like you can't have a steady, calm life, actually. Not if you have tried something like this. Like if there has been some kind of pressure that has pushed you to the limit and you have endured something. You have left some part of you behind because this is the push you had to make. As long as you are not trying to reconnect with the things that you pushed away, you will keep finding situations that are uphill. Like it's like you have gotten yourself into a state where things are almost supposed to be uphill. There has to be, as you know, like a current stream that goes against you. It's like you almost become addicted to become addicted to the resistance of something. I think this is a love-hate thing. Because there's a part of you that wants it to go, I think. Like you want it just that things can be smooth and even, but then when they are, it's like, something is missing, or it's like something is off. I even feel like it you don't trust it. Like the even plain path, it's like you don't trust it. Like it feels like, like the silence before a storm. And then the silence should continue, and just be the plain field that you're now playing. It almost feels wrong, like they're supposed to on this to be a mountain at some point. It almost becomes an addiction, right? That you somehow have to have a certain amount of resistance because you don't know anything else. You don't know anything else, and this becomes your normal. And when it becomes your normal, even though it is tough, and even though it is maybe toxic, and even though it pushes you to the limit of what you can endure in life, perhaps, it's like that. Yeah, it has become your normal. I think that is also what you see with soldiers that come back from like extreme war zones and they have post-traumatic stress. It's like adapting back to the normal civilized hometown is difficult. It's like when you've had this experience where you are pushed to the limits, all your nervous system, everything in you is on high alert. When you're taken out of that to heal, you could say, into you can go back to the civilized lives, but it's difficult to adapt to this. If you're suffering from post-traumatic stress, it's like, and you can get triggered by noises and things like that, right? There's something that can trigger you in the plain life. Maybe even in what we would call safe environments. You are with your family. They are happy you're home. They want to help you. They want that you can have the best life possible. you know, but they also see that you're struggling. To adapt to this world again almost becomes too foreign. Some soldiers actually prefer to come back, or they feel like they can't. It's like this world is alien to them. Like they have to be in the war zone, or they have to be where there is an amount of pressure. So this can be I feel like one of your love-hate things here, that, you know, if things become too safe, it's like you don't trust it. It almost feels like there's something wrong. There is nothing wrong. It's just because you have adapted your mindset, and your entire nervous system and everything is adapted to certain circumstances. And in that process, you left something behind, that or you shoved it aside. It had no priority because you needed to focus on this. Something very detailed, something very, I've said before, for Capricorn, because Capricorn is, at least in the upper hemisphere, it's the darkest time of the year. There's very little sunshine. And it means for a Capricorn to survive, as I said before, it's like you're up against something. And we could say that it's the darkness, it's the cold, it's the living without the sun, or very limited sun. So you have to adapt yourself to a dark, cold environment. You become a gatherer. You gather everything you can in the few daylight hours there is, and bring it home so that you can survive. You never go out at night. It's not safe, right? You never do that. It becomes these instinctual things or ritual things that you know you have to get up in time. You go out there when there's sunlight. You go back in time. Otherwise, you're doomed. You will die out there, right? So you get the wood for the fire. You get as much. You shoot a deer. You do something. You shoot a hare or something, and you bring, or fish, and you bring it back in time before darkness comes, because it is utterly dark, right? And we talk about times also before we had electric light and everything. But instinctually, I believe that Capricorns carry this feeling of being maybe born into an environment where there's always something. There's always some kind of push on you. And you become like you are the endurers here, right? You can adapt to the most hostile environment. You can endure frostbites, heat bite. You can endure the most terrible human condition, starvation. You can endure things like that with a lot of pain, with a lot of, and it's like survival and death is always somehow present, or the threats in some way are always present in your life, more than I think for others. And somehow it makes me think that, why is that? Why is it that some people are born here and they somehow just, like your sign is ruled by Saturn. Saturn is known as the great teacher. It's supposed to bring in a big lesson. And then you're supposed to figure out how you're dealing with it, right? Because as I say, you can stick to your principle and die. You can try to endure, but in that process, you push away other ideals, or you push away other things that are also you. As I said, Capricorns can become very serious people because of this. What they have shoved aside is maybe fun, laughter, lightness of life, trust, things like that. It's shoved aside because it doesn't apply. Like, you can't have this and deal with what it is you are in front of here. You have to become focused. So all of this is like an illusion. It's like something, it's not there for me. It's not available, not as long as I'm dealing with this. But even when you're not dealing with it, it seems like it's difficult to incorporate this again. Like, to have it back is difficult, If you can't find a way to somehow get some of this back, and I just get the feeling it's very difficult. As for the soldier with the post-traumatic stress, or the abuse victim, someone who is raped, for instance, at a very young age, like, it's like there's a life before that event, where you may have had more of this, like these other things in your life. Then the event happens, and after, it's like you can't have the trust, you can't have the calm, you can't have the joy, you can't be as open. You are scanning the environment, right? You are more afraid, you are more anxious. You don't go out at night. You or whatever it may be, right? So there is a life before, then an event happens, and then there's a life after. And it's like, when you have this life after, it seems like you can't just go back and take all the things you had here, the trust, the openness, the joy, the playfulness, and put it in. It seemed like an event has stopped something. And you are in some kind of after process. You are living with certain scars here, or certain trauma, or a certain event. And it seems like there is a former you missing. When we are in this state, what happens is usually it's like you have situations where it's always uphill. Because you can't, like, in this state, the law of attraction will give you this feeling. You can't, like, it's uphill to trust. It's difficult to trust. It's very difficult to be open and playful. It's very difficult to laugh. It feels foreign. It feels lost in some way. Fun and good times and playfulness and trust and the easygoing life, it feels done. It's like it's over. It's uphill to get that. It's very difficult to get it back. When you're in this state where something feels like the former you feels lost in some way, that's what the law of attraction does. It constantly gives you proof that life is uphill. Because that's how you feel. You feel there's danger out there. It's difficult to get peace. It's difficult to, it takes an enormous amount of effort to have peace, to have new friends, to have new loving relationships, to trust again. It's a very difficult climb. It takes something out of you that is difficult to go there. It requires something extreme. You can't just be given fun. Like, even if someone just came along and would give it to you, like put it on your porch or front door, When you open the door, you would kick it away. It's like, because you're not open to it. It's like you can't have success unless you have to climb a difficult mountain. Triumph over something very terrible or trauma has to come with a pushback. It's almost like you're trying to push something back that it's like you're trying to win over the winter. You expect it to be hard. You expect it to be difficult. You expect there to be like great resistance. It's like it's in your DNA almost. You know, it's you can become a person that cannot laugh of ordinary jokes. Like it's too plain for you, right? It's like it lacks a certain, maybe you can laugh of sarcasm, because it lacks this, like it lacks a certain, I actually feel like I want to say it lacks a certain evil. Like that, there has to be a sense of life-threatening evil, almost. So maybe you can laugh at sarcasm, right? But not at you know, like more light joking, more light conversation. You don't do small talk, Capricorn, right? It lacks a certain depth, or it lacks a certain, it's like it has to reach something in you that is almost like it has to awaken this bull in you that is that wants to push back, right? Unless that is somehow poked, you can't laugh at it. You can't enjoy it. You can't. It almost takes that for you to enjoy something, you need to have awakened this inner bull that is pushing against the stream. That having success or just joy or fun or something, it requires a pushback from you, or an investment from you that is so otherworldly, I want to say. And for some reason it makes me think, right? It makes me think that why is it that Capricorn seems to have so much resistance against them? And I believe this is from a young age. Like it's almost like you're born with it, right? That you come here and then it's like the world is looking at you and somehow saying, okay, we are going to push against this child no matter what. We're going to do that. Why is that? Either you have extreme karma when you come in here, and you don't, again, I feel like you dump into this world and you're not prepared. You don't even know your karma. You have no tools. You have no survival kit. You don't have a book. You don't have anything. You just put in a really problematic situation, and then you're just left to like, okay, we'll see what happens. Either you die out there or you adapt to something, right? But in that adaptation, there's something else that is pushed aside. Because you can't survive if you're trying to keep both. right? As I just said with this film I mentioned, like they can be virtuous, good Catholics and eat human flesh at the same time. Like that, there's something that needs to be abandoned so that you can focus on what's in front of you. And that thing that you abandon is maybe a very big price to pay. But I don't know what the circumstances are. I don't think that, again, why do people get post-traumatic stress? Why do the soldiers get post-traumatic stress when they are exploited or what is that called? When they are sent to other countries, war zones. Well, I think it's because though they are soldiers, though they know how to fire their gun, though they are prepared for certain circumstances, what they are experiencing, clearly they were not prepared for. Otherwise, they wouldn't have post-traumatic stress. Post-traumatic stress is a response to an environment or an experience that has been way too harsh for them. And there is no, it's not really all about the war zones. You can have people that from a car accident in their hometown, which they normally feel very safe in, that they can have post-traumatic stress. There are no rules to what it just indicates that it has been way too much for you to handle. Way too much for your nervous system, way too much for your emotional system, way too much. Such big life threat that your system has this response to certain triggers. Usually comes with a lot of other problems like psychiatric problems, sleep problems, feeling you are haunted by something. I know this will maybe not apply for all Capricorns. I know that you can have Capricorn in different placements in your chart. But if you have personal planets with Capricorn, you will probably feel some of this a bit more. And for some it's very, it's a lot, right? And for others maybe not as much, but it's still there somehow. It lingers, somehow. I think this love-hate relationship is that it's almost like you can both love and hate your life here. Like having an existence here in this life comes with love and hate, in the sense that, again, you may even remember that there is a former you and an after you. Like there is a former version of you and then something happened and then there's an after you. And this after you is trying to find its way to the former you. But what you find yourself in constantly is in this uphill thing. The state you are in, the way you think, is constantly confirming to you that getting to the former you is uphill. But there is this feeling that I must find it, right? I must find it. I must get back to this. I must somehow have it back. But it just feels so exhausting and so triggering to somehow figure out how to find my way back. You may have a love-hate feeling of that you're trying to find your way back to something, or you're trying to find a healing way in some way. And you just find yourself feeling that it's like this all the time. That why is it supposed to be so tough, right? Why is it supposed to be so, or why does it seem that it's so tough for me? But because I guess maybe, Capricorn, you have been looking at other people. And for them it may seem like life is not that big of a deal. It's easy for them. Why is it not easy for you? Well, I guess it's because it's almost like your energy keeps attracting like the uphill experiences. Because you're not trusting, you're not open. Like the way you think, it has to be complicated. It's almost like, again, you have to be very, even though there is no enemy, even though winter is gone, you are still walking around like it's there. That's what like post-traumatic stress also is. It's like it's there even though it's not there. The soldiers are not in the war zone anymore, but they still walk around being just as edgy or alert as if it was. It's as if it's still there, but it's not there. So why is it that your mind and it's like you're reliving something that has been, but it's not there anymore. So why is it that our mind keeps doing that? Like it's like it wants to go back. It's like it's pointing to something, right? This has to be dealt with. Like it keeps repeating itself. It keeps coming back and telling you something. Because this is the problem. The problem is here. This is the reason why you don't have the former you. This has to be dealt with. That's why you keep repeating, or you keep, as long as you are not dealing with it, as long as you find you have triggers, as long as you keep seeing yourself coming back to something, experiencing something where your body may react, it's because it's not done. You haven't healed it yet. It's not enough. And you may find that life is difficult because of this, because you find yourself kind of, you go out in the world and then it's like you loop right back. It's like you're in a loop somehow. A loop where you feel like you cannot move, right? The only way to like change this is that you change something about your mind, how you think. If we are constantly obsessed by healing, I have to heal this, I have to fix this, I have to get over this, because you want the former state back. I want to get back to this, or I want this in my life again here. So I have to heal this. As long as you focus on you have to heal something, that's what the universe gives you. It gives you new stuff to heal. It gives you the loop. Like it reinforces the loop here. If you start telling yourself you are healed, I have done my healing work. I'm on the other side now. I can see sunshine now. I can see beauty now. I can relax in my body. I am healed. I am, you could say, your former you, or I have integrated this part of me that I felt I lost. It is integrated. When you start telling yourself this, the universe hears it. Oh, okay, they are healing. Or okay, they are done. Okay, we make sure that we send something then that reaffirms that. Sometimes they have to send things to, you could say, push you to the very last healing. So that when you have done that, you are actually connecting. You have taken it back. You have claimed it back. So it may feel like for a moment that you go 4 steps backwards, but actually you're moving forward. It's just the universe has to push in the last things that you have to overcome so that you actually do have that healing. So that what you're saying to the universe applies. Otherwise, you just... And that's what we see with post-traumatic stress, isn't it? Like it keeps bouncing. It's like they're in a time loop that never changes. I'm not saying it's easy, and I'm also not saying that it's going to happen overnight, that suddenly from one day to another you are on the other side, or you have claimed that now you find that this over here, the former you, is now back here. I think it happens over a period of time, as well as you are dealing with your triggers. Just this idea that you take an overall vision that tells you that what you are experiencing is the loop. And yes, it may look very real. The anxiety and the fears are very real. But it's a loop. As long as you keep that knowledge in your mind that I'm in the loop now. It's very personal, it's very real. When you have settled down again, go back to this state where you know that you were experiencing a loop. You are not the loop. You're not in it. You are actually outside of it, watching it, right? You are outside watching the loop. That is a totally different... You can become the witness of your own loop. And what happens in it? What are the voices? What is the trigger? Who is the abuser or whatever? Like you can have this, you can watch it from the outside. You can actually stand in a witness position watching your loop. You could say your hell loop. That's what I feel like this is. Post-traumatic stress is like a hell loop. You keep keep experiencing the same thing again and again and again and again. You can end up becoming the witness that is looking at an experience that keeps looping here. You still feel it, like you still have the anxiety, but you know, there can still be another voice in your head that starts saying, oh, this is a trauma loop. You're in a trauma loop now. It will pass. It will pass, right? It will pass. And then we are back in focus. Then we have our focus on, I'm okay, I'm healed. I have pushed all this. My healing process is done. I have reclaimed everything that may have been annihilated. I have reclaimed it. It's already here with me. and I'm safe, and I'm happy, and I am whole. Then you stand in that vibration again. The more you can do this, the more it will come to you. But it may be in bits and pieces, and it may take time. I feel like this has been part of my own healing process, because I was very much in survival mode at some point, and not so much anymore, but it takes time, and I had no idea how to do this. Again, you come in unprepared. There is no book. There is no, elder guiding you. You are totally alone. So don't give up. If you feel like this is just a really annoying method and it's not working, don't give up on it. Like, keep telling you, because if you give up on it, you give up on yourself. You give up on the idea that you could get out of the hell loop, right? If you give up on that idea, you give up on yourself. Then you just stay in this. It's like a hamster wheel of hell loop that just keeps coming. You never know when. Like, the triggers can be, like traffic noise, or it could be some kind of, some noise that assembles a gunshot, or it could be a person that seems like, that has an energy feel like an abuser that you have encountered at some point. As I said, it could be like winter. It's very cold, it's very resentful, it's very, judgmental or something. But you never know when it comes. You never know when it's when it comes in. You're always somehow unprepared, maybe, for this. And I think that's kind of an energy that you can. It's like the way you need to have your life, Capricorn, is maybe because it can become serious and focused, and it can be all you think about. Like, it can become such an obsession almost that you are shoving a lot of other things aside. Sometimes I say that Capricorns, they are also associated with the 10th house of work and, ambition of having a goal. The goal here at the end can, of course, be that you want to be a CEO of some kind of company, and you are going through all kinds of strife to get there, and to get there you have to be very focused. So you shove away maybe partying, drinking, you're very focused with your education, with your you want to have the best results. You become a high achiever, because you have to be very focused to get to your end goal. What that end goal is, maybe it's healing. Maybe it's the CEO position. Maybe it's this economical triumph or something. Maybe it's a specific partner, and you're doing everything you can to become, have value, to be valuable, or, to look good and be valuable and have all the right things so that you can have this end goal. It becomes almost like an obsession. It's like you can't not do this. It's almost like your life depends on it. or your survival depends on it. It's like you have to go there. It's such an extreme drive, and such focus and such seriousness that, well, it shoves aside something else. Sometimes to be a CEO or to have a multinational company, you neglect maybe family. You neglect, your children or something, because you need to focus on, because this becomes so, you could say, dominant. And maybe you both love that, or maybe not love it. It is, well, love, I say that these round of reading are love-hate relationships, but it has both sides of it, that you must do this. Maybe it's purposeful, like maybe it gives you life purpose to do this, and at the same time you know that it's in order for you to do this, you may need to shove something else aside. So this has a consequence, right? And even when you get to the end goal and you can sit in your CEO chair and you can have all the money, you can look back at the broken marriage and your children that may resent you, or whatever this is, or that maybe if this is a healing path, that you have been exposed to some kind of post-traumatic stress, and you're trying to heal yourself. Someone is on the sideline of you, perhaps, not quite understanding what's going on, not quite understanding that you are not there for them. Maybe this is going to reveal some kind of purpose for you, that you have to go towards this, but then you're leaving something behind, or that some event already has left something behind and you're trying to figure out how to get it back. How to get a sense of a whole life again. There is this, if I pursue my dream, I'm annihilating something, or I'm shoving something aside. If I'm not doing this, I can have this with my family or my friends or something. But at the same time, it's like being split between ambition and maybe, let's say, home life, or being split between healing and being there for your children or loved ones. Being split between you could say trusting again, or not trusting but enduring. It is something like that I have here, and I just feel like it makes me think that it's like Capricorn are born with an extra luggage or baggage, right? It's like you come in with like a sense of already predisposition for some kind of karma. And it can take your power away, right? It's like it can. Sometimes I also think that it could be something like a child, right? A Capricorn child that plays in the garden. He what can I say? Well, maybe he likes to climb trees, right? And he has done this a lot, and he favors it, like he likes it, to sit there in the trees and, take apples or nuts or something from the tree and just sit there. But there's a risk to fall down and break his leg, right? And maybe that happens, Maybe you do fall down and break your leg, and from that point you're not climbing that tree again. It's like the joy of something and the freedom and the trust and the embrace of this. After this experience, it's not the same. You can climb the mountain, you can climb the tree, you can sit there, but it's not the same. It's not like the trees have changed. You have changed. Like the same joy and openness and willingness and, the trust of being there. Also the belief that you can do this, that you're safe there, that you are all right there, that you can do anything, you can climb this tree. That idea has gotten this. It's like there's a failure principle. And that failure principle has to be overcome. So again, I feel like this uphill battle that is like you are always somehow fighting to get to the top, but there is this failure element. It's almost like you're born to experience the failure element of something. That you have to annihilate something, or you lose something, or to get to the end goal of something you want, or the healing path towards something, or the climb to the CEO position. It almost like it comes with a sense of a reinforced failure pressure. And you're trying against all odds to somehow break through that. Or that's what I feel like. That you are constantly somehow feeling the sense that you could fail, right? Because you have failed in the sense that you've lost something here. The former you is not the same you after this event, after you fall from the tree and hurt your knee, or you break your leg. It's like you can go back and climb the tree, but it's not the same experience. You've had this poking of life. It's like Saturn pokes you into this state where you are questioning yourself, and again, it's like you've been touched by life in a way, or poked by life in a way that takes something away. It takes away the sense of victorhood or triumph or king, or you're constantly up against that. There could be this love-hate relationship with failure, right? Overcoming failure. But it's not just a little failure. This is something that really has, it has pushed you into a corner. It's like you are born with the sense of being a failure, or that something can, as I said, it's a threat, it's a life threat even. It's like, it seems like you can't avoid it. Like it's there, and it can even become such a point that you attract it to you. That you expect it. You expect things to be uphill. You expect failure, or you expect resistance, massive resistance to what it is you're trying to heal or get to or do, or if this is an education that is a difficult one, or you will have a lot of homework, it will be tiresome, it will be boring, it will be an uphill battle. But then again, as I said, it's also like if you had let's say an education that was plain, or it was just, like plain life like that, I think you would get bored there. It's like there has to be a sense of resistance. I think that, and I think it's because it's familiar to you. Normally we choose familiar over whether it's good for you or not, whether it's successful for you. Like you could have success in a different area and it would be much more plain. But it's almost like that is not good enough. Like you have to get this sense of like victory, true victory and success only comes with like tough endurance, right? That's kind of, and I could feel that there's this love-hate thing about this, because at sometimes when you are really, really struggling with this, I think you would prefer the plain, like you would prefer that it could just be more smooth. But then if you chose smooth and easy, and if you chose that, it's like there's this spice that is missing. Like the victory from this, or the success here is not, it doesn't feel right to you. It doesn't feel, it's like there must be this edge or this sharpness. There has to be a bit of thorns here. Otherwise, it's not real success, or it's not real. I can't, and I have to get to the top. I can't stop middle way. I can't stop just, middle way. I have to like take all of it. When I've started, I have to go for all of it. I can't stop 1 year in, or 1 year into an education and stop that. Then it's a failure. Like when I start something, I have to go towards the end. And this completion thing, that you have to complete against all odds, against all threats, against all like tough endurance, that you somehow have to go through the toughest, longest, most terrible experience. And when you get to the other side, that is triumph. Like now I have done something, and maybe others don't see it, right? But for you, this has been like that is true triumph. And others, like they would choose the easier road. Like they would just choose this more plain, easier going life. But for you, it seems like there must be this edge to it somehow. So I get the portal keeper here in the middle. This is what I feel like. It's like for you to have this end goal of success, it's like you are up against, you have an adversary here. But that adversary is, I feel like almost a mirror of yourself. It's like there is something here, and you can put in everything here. As from the film I talked about, this would be the winter. Like this is a keeper that kind of, it stands in the middle of you and your success or your triumph. That there's something here that you have to, that almost keeps you from succeeding. Like this inbuilt, as I said, failure potential or karma or something that you are constantly somehow attracting. Of course, it can reshape itself along your healing route or along your route to your success here. Like this can be a co-worker, right? This could be a lover. This could be a parent as external manifestation, but it all comes from within, right? That you have something here that seems to almost like stand in the way. It's like there's always this bump in the road. This is like the bump in the road. Or as I said in the helm loop, it's like it keeps pointing to, it's like there's this road bump that you are constantly being drawn back to. And the road bump can be, as I said, an inner feeling of being a failure, not having what it takes, for instance, to get to your endpoint, to ever be healed, to ever be whole, to ever be the one you were before, to ever find happiness again. This can be a sense of seriousness about life. It's like it points right back to the event or the environment or the noise or the overwhelm of something. This is like a reminder or a memory of some kind of overwhelm that stands between you, your current situation, and what you're aiming for. So it can be an external manifestation. This can be a person that is a reminder of something. It can be an obstacle of some sense. It can be a grief or a sorrow or something that must be forgiven, right? You figure out what this is in your life, but it keeps you for now away from something that you truly want. We could say that this could be the sense of like a future thing, that you're aiming for something. As I said, you're aiming for something, but then there's this guy in the middle, and it's like this constant roadblock. That when you get to this, it's like you can see the goal in the background, but you can't seem to get by this guy here. That he seems to be there all the time. A portal keeper here. And just know that if this is externally happening in you or for you, that you always feel like the road is never just even for me. It always seems like it's uphill. That it's somehow exhausting me. Because you have that feeling, it's because it comes from within you. Like this external manifestation perhaps comes from within you. This is something in you that keeps you from getting there. So let's say that you have a goal of becoming the CEO. You want to be the master of something. You want to win the Olympic gold medal in swimming or something. But every time you swim, it seems like you never break the record. You're never fast enough. It's like there is something here that keeps you from not getting to that goal. This is, it says here it's a portal keeper, but actually it's a keeper of something. It keeps you in a current state of maybe feeling non-success. But why? Normally, something like this can be a a protector. Like he can be a keeper, but he can also, that keeps you from something you may feel like, but it can also be a keeper in a sense that it's protecting you from this. It's protecting you from getting here. So what does that mean? Like maybe, there is a part of you that fears success, that fears being this one, that fears being in a leadership position. Because what does a leader do? Like a leader is responsible for something. A leader is in charge of something. A leader has to be a public person, for instance. An Olympic winner as well. Well, an Olympic swimmer, for instance, they can have all their effort towards becoming good enough to actually participate in the Olympics. Like that can be done in more anonymous life. But when you get to the end goal, suddenly the photographers are here. You win the gold medal. You win the gold medal. Suddenly you are not out of the public eye. Suddenly you are in the public eye. Now every spotlight is on you. Now you have to talk to reporters. Now you become an idol for other young swimmers. Now you become this talk of the town. Now you are suddenly in the public eye. Now you are suddenly not anonymous anymore. So this can be something that is keeping you from reaching your goal because of something. Because of, again, if I talked about these guys that were in the snow community in this film, they experienced something very traumatic for them, and they had this after experience. One of the things that I think that they may have found, and all post-traumatic stress survivors that they find, is that the lack of having the lightness of life, the joy, the peace and the safety, the relaxation, the good sleep, that it's all gone over here. And we're trying always to somehow find a way to get back to it. But then there's this portal keeper in the middle here, and it's keeping you from getting there. So why would that be? Well, for someone who has gone through a traumatic event like this, becoming more like an animal again, like living by these very primal instinctual survival mechanisms, to have the joy again, to have peace again, to have the loving family and support and the warmth of the beautiful Spanish sun and everything, the Spanish cuisine. How is it that you may not feel that you fit in here anymore, that something is missing? First of all, this experience made you annihilate some of that. Like you gave it up because you had to confront, like you had to be focused on what was in front of you. So you see, there could be a sense of not being worthy of it. Like I'm too far away, I became an animal, right? I became like an animal more than I became my happy-go-lucky football youngster teenage life. I became another person, or I became another creature here. I cannot be this, like it's too far away from me now. I have become I was changed by this experience. I become something else. I cannot find alignment with this. I'm out of vibration with this. I'm not like this anymore. I am something else. And that is the keeper here. It's like it's a voice that tells you, or a state you are in that tells you that you are out of alignment with this, that you are no longer this. The keeper here, or the event, you could say, here in the middle, is the reason why you are separate from this. That's why you will keep coming back to it. You will find yourself coming back to it. So maybe this process that you were in, maybe something was lost there, like a rape victim, maybe, or abuse victim. Maybe you found yourself that you needed to let go of something. Like you had to let go of something in order to align yourself with the current state. Again, you can't adapt to a wilderness like that cold winter unless you let go of something. You had to adapt. Every time we adapt to something, you could say, as I said, either you die in it and you keep your moral and ethics and everything up, you die in it. When you adapt with it, it's like you melt with it. So if you melt with an abusive situation, you are descending your energy. You're descending your energy with something. It's like you become one with it, or you melt, you adapt to the harshness of something. When you are adapting to the harshness, it's like you melt with it in some way. Whether you want or not, you have to. It's like an invasion. So either you die while you are praying, or you are adapting. Again, let's say you are a rape victim, what could you do in that situation? You could fight them, maybe being killed because of it. If you fall into the situation, you melt with it. You have now descended into theirs, like the rapist's state of mind. You become one with it. And that's why you cannot just go back to your jolly, happy teenage football under the bright sun of Spain life. You're out of alignment. You have become something else. It's like you've merged with the energy of something else that was not you. It's like you have an alien in you, or you have alien energy in you that is not you. And that is the problem. It's like you have this inner fight that you have descended into a world that is not yours. You have become a mix of you and something else. And that is what you're getting back to. You keep being like it. A part of you keeps pointing at it. This is the problem. This is the problem. It's like you have something alien in you that takes your peace away. It is the problem that keeps you from having your peace back and your lightness of life and your sun and your warmth and playfulness and good times and laughter and, trust and everything. You have merged with something that is a block in the road for you having that again. And you have to figure out what that is here. What is that exactly? Because it is a keeper, it keeps it away from the so-called success. So it can seem like a roadblock, but it can actually also be a keeper. So are you fearing being playful again? Are you fearing being trusting again? Do you fear it? Do you fear that if you had all of this back again, that you would have it all over? Would you be attacked again? Would you be raped again? Would you be resented again? Would you be mocked again? Will you be annihilate, like, will you be resented again? Like, if you take this power, if you claim this back, you were something that was here before. Like, will it all happen again? For a young girl who got raped, like, is one of the reasons why she got raped, is that her openness? Is that her playfulness? Is it her shine? Is it her glow of happiness and joy? Is that the reason why she got raped? And if you get it back, will you be raped again then? Will you be able to handle it? Will something come in again that is going to overwhelm you? You could say for a soldier who has PTSD, for them to have the soldier before he went to war, the one who was in training, the young man who had maybe a good life, good values, they were raised in a supportive, good home. They wanted to defend their country. They became a soldier. They went through the boot camps. They volunteered to go abroad and so on. If you are here, you have the aftermath. You stand in the PTSD. If you somehow clear the roadblock here, if you clear this away, you could potentially be the one again who stands here. You could potentially have it again. But what happens then? Because what you have here you have all the former thoughts. You have all the former thoughts of how to be a good young man, what it defines you as a good young man, how maybe you were raised in a family of soldiers or military people. The story here is about how that to have value, you must be a person like this. You must you must join the Marines. You have to become this hero, right? And maybe you stand here now and become like, the sense of being a hero comes with a big price for you. So maybe you don't want this back, because if you get it back, you should maybe list again. You should become the soldier again. When your family sees you healing, now you get all the values back. There's a reason, I think, for those who stand with PTSD or aftermaths like this. First of all, the event changed them. The event changed them so that what was before is maybe now that not that attractive. Because if I do get all of this back, I would list again. I would put myself in the exact same spot. The rape victim, maybe they don't want to be beautiful again. Because if I get it back, potentially I could get raped again. I'm trying to protect myself from having the experience again. So even though I want to heal, I'm also protecting myself from something. You know, maybe you want to lose weight if you have somehow become big or obese or something. But there is a reason why you may have changed from being maybe a slimmer person. Something may have happened that now you ended up here being more maybe obese, right? And you are saying to yourself and you're saying to the world, I want to slim down. But there's something here in the middle that keeps you from slimming down. Because what happened here? Why did you end up here? What happened here? right? And if you actually get back, or you get this slim state back, could this happen again? Like this thing here, could this happen again? So when we're dealing with post-traumatic stress, I believe it's because there's some circumstance before where we were not prepared, we were not fully prepared to what came. And now we stand with the aftermath of something. So if I become this again, I'm not prepared. I will not be prepared for something here. Potentially, I'm not prepared for it. Even though I get some of my shine back, even though I get some of my joy back. It has to be a slow process, right? So that you are sure you will not end up here, you will not end up in this again, that you will not have to face this again. It's like a warning system. This can be a warning system in you. You know that you have this physical reaction maybe to something. You want to run away from something, but then again you are also wanting to get rid of your fears, right? Again, let's say you have fear of spiders. Because at some point in your childhood you may have had this like really bad experience of spiders. So you had a before time when you were 4 years old and you had no problems with insects or something until this event came. Now you're very afraid of spiders. You see, if you get this former state back where you were unaware, you were also not, like you were open and trusting to the nature, but then something happened. And if you get this state back, you could face the spider again. So to getting this back means that the former you is looking at the after you. These two have to figure out how to find each other again. But it must not be too quick, because it's like a negotiation. They're negotiating with each other. One is saying, let's go into nature. One is saying, no, I want to stay in. Because there's a fear of the spider. This one doesn't get it. Why don't you want to go in nature? It's fun, right? But it's dangerous out there. So you have this conversation between them. And it all comes down to the spider. You have to figure out what it is that is in between them here. That is not allowing one part of you to move towards the success. The happiness you want, the slim line, or the goal, the CEO, or because sometimes it can simply be that the soldier with PTSD, after a very specific war situation, like becoming the soldier again, or becoming a healthy young man again, can bring him right back where he will face this war zone again. If a PTSD soldier heals, he's still a soldier. He can be deployed again. He can be sent into a war zone again. So right now the PTSD is preventing him from getting there again. Do you see that, like, some of these mechanisms are, well, it seems like they are blocked to the good life, but they are also a keeper, a protector from not getting into some kind of mess again. if you have arachnophobia, you are afraid of spiders. As long as you are afraid of spiders, you are scanning the environment to keep you away from finding spiders again. If you got this back, you would be maybe a bit naively going out there again, and you could encounter the exact same problem. So the happy, jolly time here can't come in too fast. Like they have to negotiate here. Joy and fun can come back, yes, okay, but I'll find it in environments where there are probably no spiders. So instead of playing in nature, I may go to, I go swim, or I go to the, I go to an environment that is maybe indoor, or I go to an environment where there is a less possibility that there are big spiders here, for instance. You know, or I'm not going into the wilderness, I'm enjoying nature in a more, let's say, it's a controlled environment, like a garden that has been taken care of. Like you can sit on the lawn, right? You can sit on a chair with your feet up on the lawn, and you can enjoy that. But then you will look down before you put on your shoes and you walk into your house. You don't take on your boots and walk into the wilderness, where the spiders can sit with their webs and you can get them right in your face. You know, you choose to embrace some of this, but in a slow fashion, to see if you can manage, or you can even discuss this idea that if I confront myself with something like the spider, I do it in a controlled manner. So let's say you go to a zoo where there's this special area where they do have maybe spiders, but they are behind glass, right? And you look at them. You don't get one on your hand, right? You look at them through the glass. And the more you do that, the more you come back and look at the spider. The more you come back and look at the spider, the less terrible it may feel. The first time you visit the zoo, you may not even go in there, in this realm where there are spiders. You may not even enter. You stand outside and just watching the door. And then you maybe even touch the door, and then you walk away, right? And then you open the door and you go in and you just stand inside. Sometimes it's a place where that is heated, you know, tropical environment. You just stand there and feel the heat of it. And maybe you walk in and you just look at one of the I wouldn't say caves, but one of the boxes perhaps where one of the spiders are, and then you walk out again. And then eventually maybe you can take the whole tour, right? And you walk out. But you still don't have to touch the spiders, right? You're just looking at them through the glass, right? And then you can take it to another level. Eventually you can actually look at them and maybe you can even, you know, with a little stick poke them or something. You can even get to a point that you're touching them, like you're touching it. You know, like you're feeling it, or even that you're holding it in your hand. But then you have like moved through some kind of process where you're getting closer and closer and closer. But But you see, some are just avoiding this and walking away from it. And then they are still in the aftermath. But if you are on a process of wanting to heal and find your way back, soldiers are always given, usually at least, they are provided with some kind of care. They are provided with a psychologist or a psychiatrist. They are given physical treatment if they have physical problems or pain in their body. They are given talk therapy. But you see, sometimes I think that PTSD survivors, like this idea of healing, well, it's great. But you see, sometimes they may prefer not to heal. Because if they do heal, they become a healed soldier. And if they are a healed soldier, they could be sent out again. If you heal your arachnophobia, you could end up meeting that spider again. And that is all right as long as it's done slowly. As long as this is a discussion. And whether you want to face it or not, do you want to go there? Even if it kills you, even if it's draining all your energy out of you. Like if you have fear of water, you start by stepping in just your toes and feel the water, right? Eventually you are in up till your navel, and then eventually you are swimming there. But you may still be frightened that you drown. You know, but doing it anyway. So you can either fawn to it and never go in, like never go into the sea and swim. Or you can try slowly to, you know, like, as I said with the spiders, like you can go to the beach, but you never get near the water. Then you can, you know, with your toes just tap a bit of water. Then you go in and only your feet are touching the water. Then you go in until your, you know, like your knee. And then you go out again. And then eventually you go into your navel, you know, or you go into your like breast area. And maybe you learn swimming. But there's this back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth to eventually mastering. Or you could say you do it anyway. You do it in spite of. Like I throw myself into the water despite of my fear. Like despite of it, I'm willing to drown. Instead of living with the fear. Because the fear or the problem becomes too like invasive. It becomes too invalidating. Like you become an invalid in your life. If you're not facing what this is, right? Eight of Water. Eight of Water talks about walking away. Like leaving something behind. Eight of Water can be, water can talk about things we love, people we love. Walking away can be maybe you walked away from someone you loved, something you have invested in, someone you care about, perhaps, someone you loved once. It is in the root position. It tells me something about either you want to walk away from something here, someone you love, someone you feel like could be the problem or the obstacle to your happiness, or to some kind of union between what you are here, the aftermath, and what was once. So there's something here that feels like an obstacle. And in your root position, it's like the root position tells me something about root chakra, sacral chakra, solar plexus. This is where you may hold trauma. Like there's something here that wants to walk away from, like wants to get an obstacle out of your way. Like you have, like you want to be on this ship perhaps that sails to your goal, but you find yourself standing here on the shore because of something. But you want to be on the ship. But then you have to, leave something behind perhaps. Like you can go on the ship, but then you're leaving something here, or something is looking at you, almost like with, what are you doing? Like, why are you leaving me here alone? There could be a sense of guilt, maybe feeling guilty, or maybe ashamed, or as I said, like with the snow community, like to survive in there, to be on this ship and survive, they had to leave something behind. What they left behind was, civilization. It was everything that makes a human civilized, integrated in society, religion, family values. You had to become very focused on only surviving. It's like you draw all the attention you could give on school and everything. It had no value there. You only had to survive. So you draw your energy back into becoming more what I would call animalistic. You think only about, again, they were not bathing there. There was no shower. Like, facial hair, everything grows. All the men had beards, big beards when they were found. They hadn't bathed in these 1.5 months. It was extremely cold there. They haven't changed their clothes. Everything it descended into like basic survival needs. So from having a richer life, you could say, it descended into like a very, very little life. And in that process, you leave something behind. You leave what we call civilized lives. You left hygiene behind. You left, religion, certain part of language, education, socializing, you being cautious, or being maybe not compassion. You're leaving some of these rituals behind, shaking your hand when you say hello to another person. All of that, it's gone. Like you leave it behind. All these ideals of how to be a good person, how to talk to another person. When you are threatened, life threatened, all of this becomes obsolete. Like they were, of course, they were friendly with each other in the beginning, but it narrowed more and more down. The more you are starved, the less you regard other people's needs or wishes or circumstances, or it becomes more you. It becomes primal, it becomes survival oriented, it becomes, more you could say. You have less energy to deal with other people's or society and, religious and church and good and bad behavior. Like you had to let that go in that environment. It was solely about surviving. It was solely about getting yourself out of this experience. So you see, something is being left behind. Maybe you feel like you're the one being left behind, and someone else is on a journey here. Someone else took off in a direction where you were not going. Maybe you feel like you had to abandon certain things here about yourself, like compassion, heart, love, something here. Maybe you feel like someone has abandoned that to pursue something else, that they had to become this, and something was left behind on the shore here. Again, feeling separate, that like something is separating, and what is it that is between you? In this case, it's the sea. But if you want to visit them, you should swim there. But if you are afraid of the water, the sea is a problem. Or you not swimming, or the fear you have of the water here. To swim to them is a problem, right? That becomes then the obstacle here in between. The fear you may have, or the abandonment feeling. Again, you may be able to look at someone here. You may even sit beside them at the dinner table. But you still feel like there is an ocean between you, an ocean of abandonment or different feelings here that you can't seem to shake. That is the problem here. That is the keeper. That can be a keeper, yes, away from something, but also a protector. Because if they were actually here with you, you had to deal with them. You had to deal with it. You had to deal with what that is over here. As I said, the healed soldier could be deployed again. He could get into a war zone again. If you have healed, you would be expected to now be someone who could deal with arachnophobia or the fears of drowning. What if it's just a repetition? If I heal from this, I could face it again. Or maybe I'm expected to face it again. If this comes back, I need to become the good Marine again. But what if I don't want to? Like, this is what I'm experiencing. If I am the good Marine soldier, I'm also expected to go to war. But what if I don't want war in my life? What if I don't want war? Actually, I'm not a warrior. Maybe you figured out I'm not a Marine. I'm not a warrior. I can't do this. So of course I don't want it back. I don't want this back. Because then I have to go there again. Something like that. So it's this love-hate thing that maybe it's like that it is expected, right? It is expected that we also always want to heal. It is expected that we want to be the endurer. That if you become aligned with what you were before, you become someone who can endure something, that you could have this experience again. For a rape victim, like maybe you don't want to look pretty. Maybe you don't want to be slim. Because if you do, you become more attractive to the rapist. Or someone who would have this kind of behavior, and you don't want to melt with that again, right? Like you don't want to have that influence in your life, or this sense of invasion in your life. Because actually, it's like you don't want to attract that thing into your life again. So we stay away of being slim and beautiful. We stay away from it. But when we stay away from it, we are also in pain. So we may want to adapt with being the beautiful, young, attractive, light-hearted, playful young girl. But we also know that when I was her, this happened. This rape happened. So I can't be her, right? I don't want to be her, because then this can happen. I want to be something else. I want to be able to take the problem out and re-emerge something from my old self. But I'm still also this. I'm still also this new version. So I'm going to be a mix. Preferably, I'm going to be a mix of what I were and what I am now. Knowing that this, I don't want to encounter this again, right? So if I should be a healed Marine, I stay at home. I become a paper pusher, or I work in the office, or I am. I don't want to be exposed to war zones anymore. I can't be a Marine, but I work in a different area. I work around it, perhaps, I work around it. Maybe I become a teacher. I become a Marine teacher or coach here, Or, but you see, healing yourself and becoming your former version would mean that you could get deployed again. And maybe you don't want that, right? Because then you could have the exact same experience again. This keeper is sometimes, it may feel like it keeps you away from your success. But is it truly a success? Like, you have to ask yourself that. Maybe the former state you had was a naive life. Like maybe you were in a bubble of something. And now you know, because you have experienced something here, you know something else about life. You know something else, and this cannot be deleted. It's like when you have first seen it, you cannot not see it. So do you want to become this one again? Because then you are in maybe it's a more happier state, but it's maybe also more naive. And if you become this again, you could have the same experience once more. So you would not prefer to be the one before. You want to be a merged version, so that a part of you is cautious about ever getting into a situation like that again. It's not preferable. That's the keeper you have here. It's telling you, but actually you don't want to be that Marine soldier, because you cannot deal with, like, this environment is too harsh. If you go in there again, if you become the version you were before and you go in there again, you will be faced with the exact same thing. But you could work around it, as I said. You could work around, like, you could be an external consultant. You could be, as I said, a trainer. You could be the pilot that trains other pilots, but you're not the one that goes into the war zone anymore, right? It's something like that. You can, but with the knowledge you have now, you will also be another kind of coach. Like, you will not let them have naivety, right? Your way of becoming a coach, or your way of being a trainer or something, is You know, if you have arachnophobia and you're healing from that, you will still, when you walk in the wilderness, scan for spiders. But because you have dealt with it, you have faced it head on perhaps. When you take your children into the wilderness, you will not, you will tell them maybe your own story about the spiders, and you were very afraid of them, but you also kind of wanted to not be. So you faced some of your fears here. And you don't want them to be afraid of the spiders. But those who haven't dealt with it, what they do all the time is project the problem. If they are very afraid of spiders, they will tell their children. They will have responses also. Ah! Like that. Jump on a chair. Oh, there's the spider, there's the spider. And when the children sees this, it's horrifying. The spiders must be extremely dangerous, so they jump on the chair as well. So when it's unhealed, we keep projecting it out there. When you heal it, you are able to now look at the spider without running away from it. So it's like there's this, oh, I may want to heal this, but on the other hand, I just know that it scares me to death, like to my core, right? I get Hestia here. I feel like she has shown up quite a lot actually. She says here, the goddess of sanctuary. No matter where I am home. The most sacred sanctuary is found within me. Yeah, this is what, and this is in your crown position. So this is what your mind is occupied by. Your mind wants to have the sanctuary. The mind wants you to be able to go out there, and no matter where you are, you're safe. No matter where you are okay. No matter where you are not being, invaded by something. When it says here, no matter where I am home, the most sacred sanctuary is found within me, because inside me I know that I'm okay. But if you are still dealing with something here, some kind of abandonment maybe, like you were abandoned, or you abandoned someone, or you are wondering if you should abandon something, because as long as it's in your life, it keeps you from your goal. It keeps you from your goal. Maybe it also protects you from your goal, but why would you want to protect yourself from being at home and safe all the time? It seems like you could be dealing with something that feels like you cannot be safe. It's like you're dealing with something that takes you away from the feeling of home. As I said, it's almost like having the plain life, the home, the safe environment, and living and just enjoying, like just have this plain Elaine life, you could say. For a PTSD survivor, a plain Elaine life is actually fairly good. It's fairly good. But to have that can sometimes come with this sense that there's something wrong. Like you expect that this seems too good to be true somehow. There must be a bump in the road at some point. And this bump in the road is something you are creating because of that problem. This could be the sanctuary. This could be the goal here, that you want to have this inner home in you. It's found within you, but then there's this guy in the middle here. And the guy in the middle is something that you feel like you have been very invested in with your feelings here, cups energy. This feels, usually it's a feeling of a bit of a sad situation. It's like you are supposed to, you feel like you must walk away from something you have invested in a lot here. It could almost feel like you see someone slipping away here from you, or that something chooses to walk away from you here, and you are the one left behind, or that you are the one leaving here, but you have to leave them where they are. This feeling always reminds me like this is a mother that looks at a child that is, moving out of home. Like a child that she has cared for so much, right? And now it's leaving on its own journey. It has to pursue its own life. And she stands here, right? Feeling that she knows that she has to let them go, but at the same time she feels maybe abandoned, or again, it could be that you are leaving something here behind because it has to find its own way. But walking away feels terrible, right? That is so this can be a guilt feeling, or shame, or like you shouldn't, or you must not go, or you must not leave, or there's a shadow element to the leaving. The leaving doesn't feel right. The leaving doesn't feel right. It comes with a great sense of sorrow or sadness or something. Or guilt, or shame, or a sense of blame that you ought to stay, you must stay, you are obliged to stay, you are a bad person if you don't do this or that, and you have to figure out where do these voices come from? What is this outcry? Because it takes you from like moving towards I feel like integrity also, and autonomy, maybe that you, it's all right, again, that you can stand in all places, that the healed marine soldier, that peace that you are seeking, that you're not having over here, that peace or that sense of I can do it, it's because you've had a sense of failure, that something happened here that put you in a position where you feel like you have where you failed, or you couldn't stand the pressure of something. It felt overwhelming. It knocked you over. And to have the feeling that, like before, where I was not knocked over, where I felt I was ready to conquer the world here, and now I have been knocked over, like to integrate this feeling again here, where you're not a failure. You're not necessarily knocked over by life again. That you can have a comeback. You can do something. Again, this could be a ship that you want to go. Like maybe this is, I don't know. Maybe you want to travel somewhere. But you have experienced traveling before where it ended up disastrous. You almost drowned here because the ship went down. So now you are afraid of traveling, or you are afraid that something would happen again, or something like that. So you're abandoning maybe some, or you decide not to go, right? You decide not to go because there is a lot of emotion here. that are keeping you from going or leaving, or but you want to. Like this is what your root chakra screams to you, that you should walk away. You should walk away, but then it's like you can't. Or you should pursue this dream here. You should pursue this dream. You should have this sanctuary where you can go wherever you want, where you will be safe out there, that you can handle it all. But if you can handle it all, no matter where you are, that you cannot be knocked over, it means that you're strong. It means that you are titanium. It means that you are almost otherworldly. And it also means that you show up. Like suddenly you're out there. Suddenly you are exploring the world. Suddenly you are marine again. Suddenly you are, who can handle anything. Suddenly you have integrity. Suddenly you have autonomy. Suddenly you can stand on your own 2 feet. Suddenly you are not codependent. Suddenly you are independent. This is a card of independency, where this feels a bit like, whatever this could be. Let's say this is a child. You are responsible for a child here, and you feel like you cannot just leave them alone, right? You have to stay. You have invested in this. There's a feeling you should let them go, perhaps. You should let them wander off. You should give them space, or you should do that. And maybe you want to, like maybe you would like not to have this responsibility, but then it means that you would actually be on the ship. You would actually be the traveler now. You would be independent. You would be alone out there. You would be exploring out there. You would be an adventurer, right? You would be on your own 2 feet. You should actually care for yourself. Maybe you don't feel like you can do that because you've been knocked over by something. And because you have been knocked over, it's like, I failed. I can't manage on my own. I can't stand on my own 2 feet. I can't be sovereign out there. I can't be alone. I can't, I need to stay here, right? I want to be able to go out there. I want to be able to leave. I want to, even though I have like put in a lot of energy here, I want to be able to maybe be single, this situation you have had, maybe it's a marriage that has been very terrible, and you can stay in that, and while you are in it, it's probably a terrible marriage, and before that you were this happy single person, and you were free, and you enjoyed yourself, and you were partying, and you had just so much fun, and now you're in this aftermath of healing from an abusive relationship maybe. But you see, because you are in that relationship with someone, you dealt with something here. Whatever you dealt with, you blended with that. Like what you dealt with that was maybe very harsh, it became a part of you. And now you're dealing with this aftermath that it still may be a part of you. And you want your happy single life back. But in order to have that happy single life back, you have to abandon the idea of being a victim. You have to abandon this, or you have to walk away from this maybe a sense of responsibility, or a sense of being like you owe something, or that you should You should stay because, like, if I leave this marriage, I know that they cannot take care of themselves. So if I'm leaving, I will be the reason for them dying, perhaps. So I have to stay, right? I still have to be committed. I still have to tune in. I still have to call. I still have to, even though I'm trying to heal from it. I want my happy single life back. But it's just that I can't. There's something about this that it makes you feel guilty or have a bad conscience, or it's like you owe something. Or that even if you have to divorce, like if you have to get a divorce, it's a failure. You are a failure in love, right? Or something. There's this aftermath that you have been involved with something, and it has a certain tune to it, and you became like you blended with that tune, but before you had another tune, like before you had another voice, before you had another vibrancy or vibration. Now something happened, you became a blend of that, and you're trying to get your own tune back here. But it's difficult as long as it's still there. So you have to figure out, what was it that I was blended with? What was the tune of this, or the intent, or the, like, what was that? And this you have to now declutter from your life. And this can be easier said than done. If we talk about a rape, it's like you literally were fused with them. Like you had a sexual encounter, you were literally fusing with them. And that is difficult to defuse, right? Because it feels like it's in all of you. It feels like it's in all of your... That's why I feel like rape victims, they wash all the time. It's like they want to wash it off. Whatever came, they want to wash it off, purify themselves and get it out. And so that's what I feel like. There's something here that you have been merged with, or you have somehow, it has touched you, or, you know, made a mark on you. And it's an overwhelm. So it feels like you have failed in some way to protect yourself, maybe, or to keep yourself intact. The one you were here is not as intact over here. Here it is more intact, here it's not. Something has been lost, something has been given up, something has been annihilated or sacrificed over here. And that's why it feels like you are less than you were before, or you may even have abandoned yourself here. Sides of yourself here. Your tune is different because of this. And you are slowly but surely in a process maybe of healing from it. And you can say, but how? Why should something bad happen to, like, a jolly, happy teenage young girl here, playful and everything? Why should a rape person get into her vicinity in the first place? Well, it's like moth to a flame, right? It's if something is very vibrant and light and playful, and it's a high vibration and young, and vibrantly shining, its light in a very authentic and way, like something gets drawn to that. Like moth to a flame. When something shines very bright, it attracts in the moth. When it gets dimmed over here, when it gets dimmed, the moths are not attracting as much. So you see, it could be something like a part of you feels like your life is dimmed, but there is also a risk of getting it back. There's a risk of getting the light back. Standing in that light, showing up in your light, in like your bright healed light like that. Because what about the moth? Like if I stand in my full capacity again, what about the moths? Are they coming again then? So there could be this fear of attracting a similar situation or person or something again. If I get that part of myself back that I feel like I have lost or that somehow overwhelmed me. So if I stay overwhelmed and frightened or I have bowed to something, if I stay in that, I can't at the same time shine. So if I'm dimmed, I can at the same time shine, but I long for the shining. I long for the triumph of the CEO. I want to get there. But then I may need to abandon something along the way. And there could be this feeling that maybe you know you should do this. Maybe you know you should walk away. Maybe you shouldn't be invested anymore. But then there is this feeling of guilt or you blame yourself. You self-loathe. You are maybe frightened again. If I'm leaving them, what's going to happen with them here? What's going to happen if I just take off? I can't just take off. It's like it can't sustain itself, or I'm afraid what happens. So somehow you are codependent, or you are in some kind of trauma bond or something here, that it affects you to the point that you stay dimmed. That it's a very uphill battle to somehow get to that success. And sometimes we stay in these circumstances instead of facing it head on. Just because it's familiar. Can I get a card on the portal keeper here? What is that? This is not the card I'm taking, but it showed itself for me. It says something about fearlessness and removing obstacles, and that's exactly what I feel like you're supposed to do to get to the end goal. It's just sometimes we have to understand that a keeper is sometimes also a protector, an ego protector. We are protecting something about ourselves that we have experienced. We have a bad experience with something. So it can be a keeper and a protector at the same time. That's why you may have a love-hate relationship with this one. Can we have another card on this keeper here? So I get a high priestess here. Okay, this is interesting because, you know, a high priestess is someone who sees beyond the veil, who has certain psychic abilities. They They may know stuff, see stuff, understand things. So you see, if the portal keeper here in you is a high priestess, she knows something. Like she is both a blessing and a curse. She is both a keeper and a protector. She keeps you from maybe having some kind of goal here. But at the same time, she's also protecting you from this. Somehow I want to know what that is too. Like, what is it that is here? Because I feel like this has to do with the feeling of being safe no matter where you are and so on. But then I think that, but someone who is safe no matter where they are, I just think about this Marine that gets deployed in very, very aggressive and very harsh, like that would be, someone who can be there and feel safe at the same time and okay with it at home. It's peaceful. It's a walk in the park. Someone who can do that, that's not normal, is it? That's not normal human being. It's not normal to be that powerful in some sense. So it's like this high priestess is keeping you from being, could be keeping you from, I almost want to say being otherworldly. Sanctuary, the goddess of sanctuary. It's like being so autonomous and so having so much integrity, like you can't be invaded. I guess that, well, or untouchable, like you are you're not. And if that's the case, it's like you're not moved. Like you cannot be moved. If you cannot be moved by something, again, it feels to me a bit like it's not human, right? One of the things that characterizes a human being is our emotional connection. It is that we can be moved, like we can be influenced by how other people feel, how other people relate to us. We can become quite reactive, so we react to outside circumstances. If you're not reacting to outside circumstances, it's like you are a robot. Or, again, as I said, you become otherworldly, you become godlike, or and it's like she's the guardian of this. It's like she stands here and says, but if you walk away from someone here, if you abandon this or you walk away from this, or you walk away from certain fears here, you become fearlessness. You have fearlessness. You become someone who has no fear. And when you have no fear, you can remove any obstacle, whatever it may be. But then again, it has this sense of, then I become a person who is absolutely fearless Nothing can stop me. I become an unstoppable force. And why is that a bad thing? Like, he stands here as a keeper and a protector. It's almost like it's like he's questioning. He's asking you, do you want to be a human who has emotions and who cares maybe, or who is involved with other people? Or do you want to become someone who is a fearless remover of obstacles? And untouchable, because it comes across to me a bit non-human, maybe. At least I want to say it tells me something about sometimes what I think leaders must do if they have very high positions in society. Sometimes they have to make very difficult decisions. Sometimes they make decisions where they know that there are casualties. Sometimes they have to become colder, perhaps, or, well, I don't know. I don't see her as that, right? I don't see her as this cold robot, right, at all. I don't see her like that. It's just sometimes people like this, they stand out, right? Because when I see her, it's a bit, when there's this, no matter where I am at home. I am home. It's like I walk around with a sense of sanctuary around me. There's always peace. There's always, it comes to a bit like Jesus, right? Like the way he could walk the earth. Like it was like no matter what he faced, it felt like he had this God-like protective like bubble around him. Like he was always at peace. He was never frightened. He didn't, it's like he knew that he was somehow safe. And I've talked about before that it's like Jesus knew that he is not the body he has. Like the body he had when he was Jesus is not him. Like he knows that he is soul, an immortal soul. He belongs with God. He knows that when he was crucified and he was hanging there and he died, he knew that he was not in danger. He knew that he would just elevate or ascend back to God. His human body was just a vehicle here. And maybe for humanity it was a tragedy that he died. And but in his eyes, I guess it was just, well, it was like taking an elevator. I just, from the crucifixion, I took an elevator back to God. He was never he was imprisoned, he was judged, he was even betrayed and lied to, and he was just sitting there like, well, first of all, I think he knew about the betrayal. I think that is even said, that he knew that he would be betrayed. He also knew that he would be captured he had that foresight, and he was put into prison. He was judged, he was sentenced, and he did nothing to defend himself. Like, he just sat there, right? And then he was crucified, he died. And as I said, I just think that it's like his soul just took this elevator back. But that's not how we see ourselves, is it? Like, we think about death in a totally different way. Usually people can be afraid of dying, some are not, but that there's a different, some have a more like live strong, die young attitude. But that's the feeling of it. I have this feeling that it's just like, it's like something here, and then that there's something here at the bottom. What is that? So I get taming the wind here. Taming the wind talks about the mind, being able to control your mind and how your mind thinks, even calming your mind, perhaps. Again, taming the wind and having this sanctuary here, where you feel like no matter where you are at home. No matter where you are, you control your mind. No matter where you are, you control what you think and how you, there's no confusion, there's no sense of threat, there's no sense of, it's like an absolute power, mind power, you could say. That kind of, that is maybe that the end goal here. Tame the wind can be like you stand in the midst of a storm and you can tame that. Like you can tame that wind around you. You can tame the environment around you. That you have a way of, that it doesn't control you or it has no threat somehow. Taming the wind is very powerful. That would be, I think this card came up in, I think it was the Scorpio reading. It's like having the ability to control the environment, definitely control your own mind, of how you are experiencing the things that are around you. Like, how much do you allow yourself to be impacted by something, and be able to stand in a way that you are deciding how much you want to be impacted by your surroundings, can give you the ability to feel this, that you are at home, you have a home feeling no matter where you are. Taming the wind could be like the end goal, but then you have this high priestess along the road here that and look at her, it's like she's there, but then it's like there's this veil that keeps her a bit hidden, like she's there but not there, and she can have foresight, as I said, she can have psychic abilities. There is a moon picture here that kind of also tells me that she could be, she could be a moon high priestess working with moon rituals, or she could have the ability to tap into knowledge that has to do with the triple goddess energies. Past, present, future. The ability to blend past, present, and future. The ability to work with the triple goddess is known sometimes as the maiden, the mother, and the crone, like having the wisdom of the young and the mother and the old or the elderly, mingled together, seeing through time. She could be someone who is like again, she has the ability to see through the veil of time and space. She can be very psychic, clairvoyant, clairaudient, claircognizant, clairsentient, something like that. She can be an empath. She can be a telepath or telepathic. She may be working with energies or manifestation energies, that there's something here, and that is the one here. Like it's both a protector and a keeper, I think, at the same time. It keeps you from maybe taming your wind, but at the same time it's almost a bit like, again, look at her. I feel like there's a similarity between these cards. It's like we see her, but then we don't see her. And here again we can see that she is here, but then she is covered with all these feathers. So it's almost like she shows up as a bird here, but she's actually a human. A bit here again we can see her, but then again we cannot see her. It's like she's there but not there. It's almost like not wanting to show your true form. Again, this seems, again, it's dimmed, like a dimmed version of something, a dimmed version of who you are. Maybe it's just a process you are in that comes across like this, that you are in the process of, as I said with the spider, it's like the high priestess can actually be who you are. Like that could be this one here, right? But becoming her or being her has like, if you were her, you were also inclined to have a certain behavior. Like if you should really become, like take this, if you should be the high priestess, it would maybe ask you to go somewhere. It would maybe ask you to sail off and become, I don't know, leave and live at a Buddhist monk on the other side of the world. And then you would leave your family or children here. You know, so becoming her or something like that it comes with a price. So for now she's standing here in a dimmed version, right? She's a dimmed version of herself. Because if she should actually embrace totally and open up and like had a total table, if she should actually own the fact that she has tamed her mind, the wind here, owned that she can tame the environment around her or impact it in some way, she would need to totally own it and embrace that energy and start actually doing it. Where for now she may come across as she is still dimmed. She may not even know her full capacity. She may not even know her full power. And it may come across as she is keeping you from some kind of end goal. But actually she's also protecting you from it. Because if you should just be handed this, if this was handed to you, it would probably be too much. Like then you should become this totally fearless person here that would ride off into the sunset, pursuing some kind of goal. And if you are codependent here with something, that is too much. Like it's too much of a difference. So becoming this fearless person, again, becoming fearless in this world, well, of course it's probably a nice feeling to be fearless. But you see, you have a body here. We have to maintain this body. We have to make sure we don't break our legs. To become utterly fearless could be that you become reckless. Like you become this wrecking ball that nobody can control or steer. You could become, as I said, like titanium here. Like you become so fearless here that you want to remove any obstacle in your life, and because of that you could become reckless. It could be the feeling that you become something that is not normal. Again, you become titanium. It's like you become something that is not normal. Like Jesus was, right? Jesus had this aura around him, this sanctuary around him that just, it was so peaceful and so kind and so loving. And that was what surrounded him. That was the world he was kind of experiencing. What was outside it, he did not feel that much. Other people did, but he did not feel that. That the sanctuary, this aura around him, protected him from all kinds of knowledge that would normally make a person bow, perhaps, or would normally make a person, like, again, he went out in the world. Let's say he had children, right? If he had children here and he was threatened to be killed, what if they were threatening his children also? Would Jesus have bowed to save them? Would Jesus have bowed to save them in this world? Sometimes family and children is a pressure point, that you want to stand your ground, you want to do your thing, but if someone is threatening your children or your family, that can be one of the things where we bow. Because we have an emotional attachment, we want to secure them. They are our responsibility, right? So yes, we can pursue our goal, we can stick to our mind, but then our children gets killed. So it's a dilemma. You can be facing a dilemma. That's why I feel like she's dimmed here. Because maybe you do know. Maybe you do know you are a high priestess. Maybe you do know that you should leave here. You should leave. Maybe you know you should detach also. Detach emotionally. Because when you detach emotionally, you become more titanium. That's one of the reasons why I think Jesus was the way he was. He was not attached to people around him. He didn't need to. He was sourced by God. His source was, like his attachment was with God only. He had no attachment to the world here. He had no It's like he was, well, he was human, and then on the other hand, he was not human. It's like being this being different, being like a hybrid, right? It's like he was human but not human. His behavior was not human. He could heal things. He could do things that other people didn't do, or couldn't do, or didn't know. It's like he had this something that protected him or guided him or gave him these tools and these abilities. It's like he was Yeah, otherworldly, we would say. I wouldn't maybe say alien, but to a certain point, yes, he was different. He was otherworldly. He was out of this world. But still, he looked like a human, right? That's at least how he is portrayed. It's like having a... But what happened to Jesus, right? Even though he was just walking there with his disciples, what happened was he was captured. He was sentenced to death because of his otherworldliness. So to embrace an otherworldliness like this, if this is what we talk about, that sense of being someone who can cure or heal something particular, perhaps, it may come with a threat. I think many healers actually, they have this death threat. Like many healers, many what could be called witches, like many of them are afraid of stepping into that power or into that knowledge, because once they were crucified, once they were burned on the stake, once they were like their head was chopped off, like it comes with a big pain body to embrace that again. So if this is some kind of old knowledge that you hold, that once eons back in your bloodline, your people was holding some kind of knowledge, but then something happened, the great purge or the great cleanse. Every witch or every magic person was killed. And now you stand here knowing perhaps that you do have some abilities, but you are afraid to step in, like you cannot embrace who you were here. Because if you embraced who you were, a bit like Jesus, right, you could be crucified, you could be hanged, you could be accused of all kinds of stuff, you could be put in prison, you could. And what if you have children here? Right? What if you have children? What if you have other responsibilities? If I stay with them, if I stay with them, I'm safe, right? Because then I keep my light dimmed. I'm not showing up in that capacity I was once. So I will not be found out. It's a way of hiding yourself. It's a way of not embracing your true power, which would be someone who stands like this, like titanium. They know who they are. They are always surrounded by a sanctuary. They're always safe. They're always at home. They never waver. They have fearlessness. They never feel fear. They can remove any obstacle because they're not afraid. Like in this world, we have to be a bit afraid, right? To be human, like to embrace the fact that you are human, you have to be a bit afraid. That is part of being human. That we are mortal and we can lose our lives, and that's why we get alliance with each other. We always humans have alliance with other people. In marriage, in family, even in society, we seem to find each other in groups. We seem to be together in groups because that is the safest way. Like you're not alone on your own here. That is not normal. And you're not alone here and then being utterly fearless here. Then you would be someone who doesn't care about life. As I just said, you could become someone who is known to be this live strong, die young person. Someone who seems like they don't care about death. They don't care about dying. They don't care about. It's like they're larger than life, right? And being larger than life usually gets attention. It usually gets attention. The story about Jesus is known all over the globe because it was special. Like if you become special in a way like that, larger than life. We know some people are that, larger than life. And we can stand and look at them, both with awe, I think, and also with a sense of like it's too much or it's weird or something, like it's not normal, right? So it's like they are larger than life, or they are out of this world. Some have that aura, right? And we can look at them and both be amazed by it, and then also being almost disgusted by it, because they are so, they don't care. Like they can become so because they act in this uncautious way, like they have no respect. Yeah, they can act in an uncautious and very disrespectful way. They don't respect life, or they don't respect the normal rules of life, because they're larger than life. And they're not afraid. They have no fear. They're fearless. There's no danger. I can do whatever I want, that kind of thing. And yes, of course, you can die in this life, in like the persona you have, the body you have. And I'm wondering if these types, those types where we say, live strong, die young, like, do they know this? Like, do they know that they have soul? So even though they die young, it doesn't matter. They come back, right? They can just have another life and come back. It's like a computer game. When you die, you can just revive it and then do again. Like, I don't know if you understand what I'm talking about, but this feels a bit like an alien, right? That if I should actually show my true colors here, I would be a bit like an alien. I'm not from this world, I'm from another one. And therefore I have other qualities. Therefore I don't behave like you. Therefore I have other rules. Someone who is larger than life, normally they behave like that, like they have other rules. Like they don't have to stand in line. No, they just go to the front, right? Like they disrespect normal rules and settings here. And maybe maybe you don't want to be that kind of person. Like maybe you have been raised to be a polite person that takes other people's feelings and into account. That no, we don't just force ourselves in front of others in the queue. That is not respectful. So maybe what you have here is that you are too polite, that you are too respectful and too polite and too considerate of other people to become this larger than life person. Becoming larger than life can be, something we don't like. We don't like becoming someone like that. Like it's maybe it's unfamiliar, from where you grew up, or it's this, as I said, we can both be in awe of someone having great success, but the way they get the success, the way they behave, the way they talk, maybe we don't want that, like we don't want other people to hate us. We don't want other people to think that we are selfish or things like that. A young girl who is a great singer, from being a great singer in the, let's say, the church choir with your church friends, church choir friends, is something quite different than being, let's say, Beyoncé. Because she, or Mariah Carey, or Whitney Houston, like from being a young singer, a young teenage singer, who just enjoyed singing, to becoming a highly professional and like worldwide popular singer, is something entirely different. Yeah, you may be showing the world your, like everything you could, like you could, as we sometimes say when singers reach the, what's I call, the high C note, that it's like it's out of this world. When people are doing something out of this world, like an out of this world performance, it's like it's not normal, or it's not human. It's larger than life. It's bigger than life. And if you want to do that, there's a price. Like from being the young girl, the young Whitney, going through a very transformative life where she got producers and musicians, and she was working in studios, and she became this famous singer. It had a price, right? Like you show all your otherworldliness, but there's a price to it, right? That you cannot have an anonymous life as a Whitney Houston. You cannot. You have to look in a certain way. You have to be gorgeous, right? And you have to keep up singing. You have to do this all the time, and you have to become this icon. So if someone is larger than life, it's because they have a potential of being an icon, a world icon. But maybe you grew up in, like a family setting where, like, making a fuss about yourself is a bad thing. Like maybe you shouldn't be, you shouldn't be like that. You should be more plain or modest. Modesty is a virtue, right? Where being larger than life, that is not preferred. That is, or even something like, if you're a woman here, you shouldn't be larger, or you shouldn't take up more space than your husband. That your husband's career is supposed to be the biggest, and you have a secondary career, right? That someone has to be, and as long as you are invested in that, you are not embracing this otherworldliness of being maybe an icon if you have some talent here. Like you do you see my point? Like this keeper here is a stopper because of something. So maybe you have been raised with very virtuous, modest understanding about your role in life as a woman, perhaps, and what you can be in this life, and being someone who is totally fearless here, riding alone out there, very independent, very strong, very self-sufficient, very autonomous, with a lot of integrity, standing in that power, that if you should embrace that, it would embarrass your entire family. Or even if you should that, you would need to sacrifice your anonymous life with your children, perhaps, or family, and that stands in the way. Or you are even afraid, depending on what what you think you could be doing here. But you could even be afraid that if I embrace this, I am going to put my family in danger. Or you are facing, as I said, with many witches and healers who have had past lives like that to do that again in this lifetime, it comes with a great sense of fear, because they have in earlier lifetimes been beheaded, judged, annihilated, cast out, punished, starved, drowned, kept like animals, and all kinds of stuff like that. So to embrace an energy like that again in this lifetime may come with fears, may come with divine timing and patience, and maybe you don't even want to, maybe you are still afraid, maybe you don't want to do it, because again, it tells me that there's something about being larger than life, being more than maybe where you come from, like how you were raised, maybe being more than a man, like maybe being shining bigger, being broader, bigger than your man, or even, let's say, your man and your children. That you become something that is so big or so different than when something becomes so different than what you're used to, like the familiar is, it could be difficult for your family to look at you as this icon singer in these golden glittery dresses on this big scene. That it's Whitney up there, but it's not my sister. My sister is in slippers, and we sit here in front of the fireplace and just exchange jokes. So like being on the scene, being Whitney like that, singing like that, is otherworldly. And she can be difficult to be put back in her teenage years, where she was just fooling around with her sisters or brothers, or when she was playing. It's like the process she has been in to get to where she is now, like this, has been a big transformation. And it's like she cannot just be the small Whitney again. Of course she can sit in the slippers, and maybe she can make jokes, but there's a part of her that is Whitney on the stage. And she belongs there. She's larger than life there, or Michael Jackson or something. They are larger than life there. For Michael Jackson, I really think that it was like the transformation he went through from being this star, like he was the youngest in the Jackson's Five, right? And from choosing to have a solo career, walking away from the family, the Jackson Five idea, to becoming Michael Jackson, the icon, standing alone individual here, then that in itself has probably been a process with a lot of internal turmoil between the family and him. But the process of becoming a solo singer and doing his own thing made him overshine the Jackson Five. Like he became bigger than the Jackson Five. And that came with a price. And he took that price with him into his death, because when he became Michael Jackson, even if he had his villa and he tried to shield himself from the outside world, a part of him may still be the very young Michael. But all the world knew him as the artist Michael Jackson, right? He could rarely have a private life with like the slippers on, an anonymous life. It was difficult for him to have that. So when you become something like this, in whatever way that is here, maybe a fearless warrior of some kind, you want to, I don't know, be a politician here, that you could become some kind of, or like, what is he called, like Gandhi, you know? That if you put yourself in the spotlight like that, it's like there's no going back. You can't have an anonymous family life. You can't be, you know that there's a price with this. Taking this crown on, wearing this gown, or becoming this one, it's like when you have become this, you cannot go back necessarily. And it feels to me like there is a, so if let's say you become a politician here, or like Gandhi, you're sending a message to the world. Like you sent, or Martin Luther King or something, you send out this message. And it's like if you stand in that light, on that scene, you have that spotlight on you, it's like you cannot go back again. Like when you've put yourself in there, and this is who you are, and you're speaking from that point, and you're willing to die for it, or you're willing to go the mile for it. It just feels to me that someone is in a process where they are talking to this. They're talking to this one, this larger than life thing. But they are also talking to the fear of going there. Like, what is at stake? What could I lose if I do this? And that's why this is dimmed. She's still in disguise here. She's still, disguised as a normal human being. She's still anonymous, but there's a little bit more that is showing up here. She's becoming acquainted with maybe the fact that she could be recognized, that someone would eventually see her message, or would eventually see her, maybe her power, because usually like people who stand in the spotlight like that and get attention like that, it's because there's something they do. So Whitney Houston, Michael Jackson, they were making music, yes, but you can get in the headlines because of other things, right? You can get in the headlines because you do something reckless here. You can do, or you are attacking something like being a whistleblower of some kind. You may get attention because you are a giant whistleblower of some kind. That you are a giant, that you expose something. You're challenging some world powers or something. I don't know, right? But that you may let the potential that you may have could challenge politicians in the world or something like that, right? Maybe you are, because you foresee something, maybe you have a foresight. Like maybe you have an ability to foresee like future problems, like let's say like monetary system cracks, like we just had the coronavirus. Maybe you could foresee that another one is coming, and that puts you in the spotlight, right? Or that puts you out here. But you have to become reckless. I feel like there's something about titanium, like being able to stand with such integrity and such autonomy, because what you have to say here requires it. Like you cannot be influenced by other people's judgment, and that's why she's dimmed here, right? Because again, there could be this fear of being beheaded, a fear of being judged or burned at the stake for what you may have to say here. That what you have here is larger than life. What you have to say, what message you have, or the impact you could have on this world could be of headlines. You know, like if you take someone like Elon Musk, like what he is doing is so like this. And he has to have an iron will to do that, what he's doing. Otherwise, he wouldn't succeed. He has to be titanium. Otherwise, he can't succeed. Too many people will question him. Too many people will not help him. Too many people will not give him funds or invest in his projects. He has to be such a capacity here, larger than life. Otherwise, people won't trust him. People won't listen to him. People won't, he has to be fearless in his pursuit of his dreams here. No matter what it costs, I put myself out there. No matter what it costs, I put myself out there. I know I will be the laugh of the town. I know they will mock me. I know I will face all of those fears. I know that potentially I'm left all alone. I could be losing all friends. You know, I could be losing my family. Potentially but I'm pursuing anyway. I get that feeling of larger than life, but not I don't get in an arrogant, negative, psychopathic way. It's not like that. It's just this is a bit like, you know, Whitney Houston here. She shines her life so strongly, and she brings something very special to the world that you can't overlook it. But it's like when you step into this power, it's also like you will not have your anonymous life. A bit like you can't be highly in the spotlight and be anonymous at the same time. Unless you are, again, dimming your life here. Unless you are wearing a mask. Right? Unless you are disguising yourself with a fake mustache and silly glasses. Otherwise, you will be recognized in the streets. You will be recognized in media. There will be paparazzi after you and everything. Or whatever you have to say, whatever you have to do here will have an impact, that could have an impact. But I don't feel that it's in a bad way. Like it's not in a selfish, destructive, demeanoring arrogant way. But I think to stand in the light like this takes a bit of an arrogance. Like it takes a bit of a reckless, or like you can't be attached to what other people think about you. You must be able to somehow detach from that. Otherwise you can't be titanium, as I say. Like you have to be titanium to fully embrace this. And you know, to be titanium is not normal. It's detached. It's uninvolved. It's, at least from a human perspective, that's what it looks like. Someone arrogant, someone larger than life. It's like we look at them with this, both a sense of like disbelief, maybe awe, and then also a sense of judgment, I think. Because it's like they behave in a way that is not human. Like it's not, and it doesn't seem very civilized. It seems a bit reckless. It seems a bit maybe narcissistic. It seems a bit like they don't care about other people. People have waited in a queue here for 4 hours and they just go in front. Like this is a VIP. This is someone who is larger than life, very important person, VIP. I don't need to wait. I don't need to wait in line. I don't need to, like, it's like they disregard what would maybe be called more civilized, normal human behavior. That is why they are larger than life. They disrespect certain things in order to be like this, right? There comes a price with that, and maybe you are not quite you're not aligned with that price yet, to be that larger than life. Because again, we also somehow need them, right? We need them. We need a Michael Jackson. Like we need a Martin Luther King or a Gandhi. We need them somehow here. Those that are larger than life. We need a Jesus, right? We need those that tell us that it's possible. They are an inspiration. They become icons. It's a guru, or it's a, they become this hope of something more. So we also need them. We need people to be larger than life. Some people. We need an Elon Musk. We need that craziness, right? It's like they have a craziness that makes them go towards something that just seems so strange, perhaps. But then when they succeed and have this like this ultimate success, then it's like, okay, maybe I didn't see that coming in preschool when I was in school with Michael, right? I never saw that about him. But now he ended up becoming this giant icon, music icon, right? And he becomes so big that he can do anything on stage. He could sing anything. Like he could have lyrics that would criticize the world powers. He could do anything. If someone becomes that big of an icon, their message in their songs can be anything. Because you can't dispute their talent, you can't dispute their voice, you can't dispute their nothing can stop it. It's like an unstoppable force here, titanium. That's what I feel like. And someone is I think they are dealing with maybe modesty here. They are dealing with a keeper here or protector that keeps you from getting to this. Because if you actually get to this, you have to be it. You become it. You shine like that. And that it seems like there's a price with this. Like maybe you are afraid. There's some kind of fear here of success perhaps. Or a fear of being like this. Because if you are like this, you're maybe not very polite. Maybe you're not very, like a comfortable person. Like maybe you have to become this bossy bitch, or a diva. Like maybe you become a diva here. And if you become a diva, you have a behavior like that. You can't look back. You have to like ignore the cue. Like you ignore the cue and you put yourself in front. You disregard maybe other people's feelings about you and what you're doing, the way you're doing things. Maybe, again, with this as a high priestess, maybe it forces you to, if you should be like her, it forces you to be into rituals. Maybe you need to embrace old, very old witch-like rituals. You will have to behave like this. You will have to look like this. You will have to become it, melt with it. But you could say that melting with it comes with a price, perhaps. The price is that you cannot stay anonymous. You cannot stay plain. But maybe you grew up with plain. Maybe you grew up with modesty. Maybe you were raised to be a second or third or fourth. Maybe you were raised to be a wife, not a solo entertainer. Maybe you were always raised to be codependent, to be a supporter, to be someone who supports, is a fan of someone else. Like you were supposed to support and be a fan of your husband's career, right? And it was never talked about that you could have your own, or you could pursue your own. You were raised to think that you had to rely on maybe a husband's income, or a marriage, or that the greatest happiness in life you can have is having a family and being a mother. And then you got the family, you got married, you had the kids, but you were not happy. And now you could be standing here wondering if this high priestess should actually step forward, if she should actually come forward here. But then you would become more, as I have described, maybe more, at least in your family's eyes, or even if you're in your children's eyes, maybe you would become more reckless, more disregarding. Maybe you become more selfish in their eyes. You will look more arrogant or more selfish. But actually you're just pursuing becoming more titanium here, more detached maybe, because it requires for you to become this fearless warrior, riding off towards something here, alone perhaps. You need to become detached. You need to sever yourself from any emotional ties maybe. That is the price that may come with this. Yeah. This is what I have, Capricorn. I hope this helped somehow. Yeah. So that is the story. I think that it's a matter of divine timing. I think this is something you have to adapt yourself to over time. And eventually, I think that maybe you will step forward here. We'll see about that. But that's what I have for you. Take very good care of yourself out there. Capricorn, as always, I send you my love and light. Bye-bye.